there. Welcome to the teaching corner. Got Tahas here. He's a little snuggle bug. All right, so this short lesson is going to be on stages of grief. And this is a topic that is very relevant to today and what we're going through with the coronavirus. And everyone here, to some extent, we are going through loss. So we have these stages of grief that we go through with this. And some of us experience it in different ways, showcasing different emotions at different times. And also, too, different things apply to us because, for example, some of us might have lost a job. Some of us might have lost a family member. Some of us might be mourning over just like losing community. You know, if you're not in college right now, you're not with your friends, you could be very isolated at the moment. So there's a lot of things we can grieve. All right. So, and this is based off of the 5-stage model. So I'm just going to go over them very quickly. The first one, denial, and be mindful too that even though this is called the 5-stage model, it doesn't mean that you go from one to the other, to the other, to the other, and it's so sync. It's in sync. Grief has no equation that it follows. Some days you may be fine, other days you might feel like you're drowning again. You can flip back and forth between the phases. So actually, let me get them all out. We have denial, anger. Anyone know the next or one of them? Andy, do you know one? Calling on my class right now. Do you know one of the stages?
Sadness.
Okay, yeah, I'll accept that. Depression. Andy's sitting on the couch. He said sadness, which is true. Accept. And this is a video that I'm sharing with all of my classes right now. I have this material for a therapeutic rec class that I do because when you're working in the field of therapeutic rec, it's important to acknowledge that a lot of your clients, a lot of the people you'll be working with have gone through some sort of loss or maybe even be processing that kind of loss. Oh, my foot's falling asleep. All right, you can stay there, bud. That's not very comfy. Okay, let's go back there. But I'm sharing this with all of my students at this time because we're going into the last 3 weeks of the semester and we have grief. You know, throughout the past month, we have lost community, students have lost jobs, you may be unsure of what your summer employment looks like, you may have lost family members at this point too. So there's a lot of grief going around, and that's just something that even though I'm in my house, I can feel every day by interacting with my students. So I think this is important for you to all know, and also know and understand that you're not alone. This is what a lot of people are going through right now. So the 5 stages: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. So starting with denial, this idea of this can't be happening, this isn't happening. So with all of this, I'm going to use the example of finding out about the coronavirus. Which actually for me happened, I was out in Colorado with a group of Paul Smith students. We had just come out of the backcountry from an avalanche safety course. We came out on March 12th, the day the World Health Organization declared a pandemic, and we were literally coming back into cell phone service as like this was kind of blowing up around us. And there was this very this big denial piece of what? Like it didn't even feel real that it was happening. Like, you know, the sun is shining, you're surrounded by these beautiful mountains. Nothing feels different except for all the information you're getting. So there was, you know, a lot of denial there, even to the extent of getting back into society, catching up on emails and phone calls, and still kind of not thinking that it's a very big deal. Well, maybe they're overreacting, or maybe they're doing this to keep us all safe. I understand that. But you still don't feel it yet. And lots of times you don't feel it until you feel that absence. So like when we didn't get back to classes, that's another level of it sinking in. So then coming out of denial, you could go into the anger phase. So like you're mad that it's happening. You're mad that maybe your government didn't do more. Maybe you're mad about travel regulations. Maybe you're mad that you can't see your grandmother, or you can't see your family, or you're mad that you're losing your job, or you're very worried that you can't afford your tuition anymore. So there's a lot of anger, and anger can be misplaced. And you can also very much be asking a lot of the times of like, well, why is this happening to me? Like I'm a good person, I do good things, and you know what? Most of us are. And, sad things still happen to, hey, if you're alive long enough, something sad is going to happen to you. So you might be mad at yourself or others, okay? You might try to put the blame elsewhere. And that could look like, why can't we go back to campus? What do you mean we can't have classes? Okay. Bargaining. So this phase, this stage could look like, well, what if we did it this way? What if we got tested before we went back to campus? What if we wore masks? Wouldn't it be better if we were on campus instead of the epicenter? You could have all these questions go around. Pretty much what they're trying to do, though, is you're trying to solve the situation in some way of taking what is, that problem and trying to, it might not be necessarily downsizing it, but you're trying to search for a solution, okay? Stretch my foot there a little bit. Where this is also pretty common to see, and you may have experienced, if someone in your family has been battling a long-term illness, or say you're diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and you really do get that diagnosis of you don't have a long time to live, the bargaining part of that would be, well, there's got to be a cure. There's got to be something out there that fixes this. All right, the depression stage. Okay, so the stage of depression is when you do finally realize that a loss has occurred. And for you, again, that might be not going back to classes, that might be the funeral service, that might be just this moment where you kind of realize life has really changed. And I had a moment the other day where I went on campus to grab some books from my office, and it was just this beautiful sunny day in April that I love that time of year on campus. I just always have. It's such a hopeful time. And it was really sad for me that no one was there, and that, didn't have that energy of people in the classroom. Me also accepting that it's been a struggle for me to do online learning. I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I feel a little overwhelmed trying to communicate with all of my students. I feel like things are falling through the cracks. I feel a lot of different emotions, and depression, though, is a stage of crying and grieving, and it is also the stage which leads us to acceptance. All right, so this feeling that, okay, we're here, I'm still surviving, and it's going to be okay. Even if the okay is different than what it was before, it's wow, I'm still alive, I'm still surviving, and here we go. Tomorrow is another day, and you start to have a bit more stability around even your thinking. You'll find that in the early stages of grief, you can be going up and down and up and down, and usually your highs are higher and your lows are lower, and it can be pretty rocky. Again, even within the course of a day, it's I'm laughing, I'm sobbing, I'm laughing, I'm sobbing. And then as we get more to acceptance, The highs aren't as high, the lows aren't as low. Of course, we still have this wave of emotion and moods that we go through, but they are beginning to stabilize, and you can feel that within yourself too. All right. So I wanted to share that stages of grief. It's I think it's a good thing to know whatever we're going through in life. We're grieving at different times, and this is something that, as long as you're alive, you're going to have love, you're going to have loss. And it's important to understand like what you might be going through mentally. So there you go.